What's up guys, CJ here, and this is going to be a first look at Apdo's Graves gameplay. This replay was taken May 14th, 2017, so pretty recent. And I've been trying to get my hands on some more first-person replays of some more popular streamers. Obviously on Huya, Apdo does stream, so it makes it easier to access, but I'm also looking around for some interesting junglers. I know that some of the Chinese junglers, most of them don't stream. You know, Kandi doesn't stream, and I'm pretty sure that only the laners of EDG stream and things like this. So I've not had much success getting the pro player VODs. There are some players that are just like solo queue one tricks, like 90 God, who's like a Fiora one trick, or you know, things like this. Vincent, who's like a Draven one trick, that I have access to on the Chinese servers. But more so, it's a lot simpler to get replays off of the Korean server players. So in this game, we're just going to be looking at this first-person interaction of Apdo and see how he approaches this game. And let's see if we can lower the volume a little bit. I'm trying to get him when he presses tab. Okay. So, you know, we'll lower the volume a little bit because the translator. So in this game, it looks like they have Zillion mid, Echo top, Lulu support, AD Ashe, right? And so it looks like the Echo is going to be going up against the York. So York, you typically want to gank for at level 3 because you pick up the slow from E, the damage from Q earlier on, and the W. But Echo seems to be able to get out of the W pretty easily, and similar if you want to gank for Echo at level 3 when he picks up all 3 spells when he has all his CC, Q, E, and then W. But in this particular matchup, Ivern probably won't be going for the top gank onto the Echo because the W has minimal pressure onto Echo so long as Echo's saving his E properly. And Graves could gank the top lane, York, but it's far more likely that Echo's going to have the shove in. So top is going to be relatively neutral because if Echo shoves in York here, then that's going to be a situation for counter ganks. But Ivern's not really going to be going for those top ganks because Echo can get out of the York W. So if we look at the mid lane, it's Syndra versus Zillion. Zillion has TP, Syndra has Ghost. You want to gank for Syndra typically when she has all 3 spells up because you want, obviously, you're going to skill Q level 1. And then you want the slow from W, and then you want the CC from E, obviously. And similarly, you want to gank for Zillion when Zillion is 3 because you want to be able to double bomb and or have the option to slow. And lastly, bottom lane, it's going to be Xayah Karma versus the Ashe Lulu. And in this matchup, the Karma Lulu matchup is one where Karma can clear the or push the back wave a lot harder because she can Q the back wave. Lulu can also trade back Q, but Lulu's typically a skill E level 1 for protection, and that'll typically lead to Karma skilling Q level 1 having the shove. Similarly, Xayah's shove can hit so many more minions than the volley does, also because her auto attacks are effectively AoE while only the volley from Ashe is AoE. So this is going to be a situation where bot is going to shove in, but we do see that Lulu does pick up the Thunderlords as compared to the Windspeaker on the Karma, and this is going to be a situation that has more turn kill potential when the gank does occur. So if Apdo does want to gank bot lane, it's going to be typically at level 3 when Lulu picks up all 3 spells. You want, if Lulu's going to skill E level 1 for protection, she's also going to skill Q level 2, and you want to have the polymorph at 3, so you're going to want to gank bot at 3. And the same goes for Ivern. Ivern's going to be going for a more counter gank spot because Ivern's bot lane is pushing, but you also want Karma to pick up all 3 spells, Q level 1, E level 2 for the move speed and defense, and then W for the root. So this is going to be a very level 3 centric playstyle, and we've already established that top gank is not the most optimal place to go for, so we expect the junglers to be routing towards bot side. So for Graves, you're going to see him route with the intention to get the bottom scuttle. The reason why the bottom scuttle has high value, in my opinion, is because when Ivern tries to go for the bot gank or the bot counter gank situation, he wants to control the bot river, which means that he can take the blast cone from behind the red over to to the dragon area and then look to move into the bottom or the mid lane from there. But if you get the scuttle, Ivern doesn't really have a way around the scuttle. If you walk out of the dragon pit, you'll get seen. So Graves does have initiative or incentive to get the bottom scuttle. So because of that reason, I expect Apdo's route to be something like a level 4 route where he goes for bot scuttle control, such as Raptors red, scuttle blue, right side jungle clear to level 4, or maybe something a little bit greedier such as Raptors red, Krug space, scuttle blue, camp. He could do a variation of things. What I would do is I would go for, because you don't have incentive to take the Raptor right away, because Ivern doesn't have incentive to take the Raptor, right? This Raptor doesn't actually do anything versus Graves, because if Graves wants to gank mid, he'll come from here and avoid the scuttle, and if Graves wants to gank bot, he'll come from here or come around. So Ivern doesn't really have incentive to take the scuttle. So the most likely route you're going to see for Apdo to stay on the map is probably going to be Raptors red, Wolves, Gromp, blue scuttle into bot gank. And then if that's, or mid gank, because Syndra should be shoving in mid more often because the Q AoE is going to come up more often than Zillion's Q AoE. So what Ivern typically wants to do here is he wants to counter gank the mid situation or counter gank the bot situation. And this is a little interesting because on Ivern you typically want to start the side that you want to route back towards rather than the side opposite, right? Like on Graves, you're going to start the side opposite where you want to go towards so that you can head towards it. But on Ivern, it's typically the opposite. You have something like Raptors red, Wolves, Gromp, blue, with a smite on like maybe, or like Raptors red, blue smite into one of these back onto this side. And then, maybe you'll smite Krugs or, some fancy Ivern routes that can occur there. But typically, you want to route back towards the side you're on, unless you're going for some kind of invade cheese. So, given that that's the situation, let's see how the game develops. And you can see him pressing tab repeatedly, looking for, how he's going to route, what he's going to do this game, how he wants to approach the game style play. And when you look at the overall compositions, you see your team has Lulu and Zillion, which is very backline-oriented defense, which means that Ashe and Graves are effectively protected, given that they play properly, because of the Zillion ult and because of the Lulu ult. So he has some incentive to carry, Ashe has some incentive to carry, and Echo's operating as side lane control and disruptor, as opposed to the opponent team who has Ivern. Yorick is a bit unconventional. You have the Karma, which is defense, the Ivern, which is defense. So there's also 2 shields on the enemy team, looking for the Syndra and the Xayah to carry, with Yorick as side lane control. In terms of scaling, Xayah scales decently, Syndra scales decently, Ashe scales well, and Graves scales well. And Zillion has some damage. So it looks like he's pinging for the left side invade coming up, and it's actually going to be Zillion top. That's really interesting. And so you see Ivern skills W first to check the brush of his left side. This is something that Iverns on the left side are doing because you want to be able to check certain areas of the map because you pick up level 2 on Ivern pretty easily. It looks like Zillion's going to tank the first shot. This is pretty common because your laner's going to get the regen and you're almost always going to take more autos off of the camps, so you're going to need that regen a little bit later. So Ivern looks like he did what we anticipated. He started off with the right side situation, moving into left side, and anticipating that. Looks like he's stealing the blue. We see Yorick staying there, and then Syndra staying top. So it looks like Ivern's going to go to the enemy blue. And this is an interesting start coming out from Apdo. And the reason for the invade is obviously because he's reading that Ivern wants to start on the right side. So he doesn't want to give Ivern a free route into the game. So he's going for the blue steal. And Lulu's going to move for control. We see both supports moving to the side. Ivern obviously gets the clear steal off. Karma's there, so Lulu's just going to have to back off. But Ashe rotates first. Xayah's going to be following up, but it's going to be a 2v3, so Apdo's bot lane has to play relatively safe as he clears the left side of the jungle. And because we talked about the game being Echo top, it actually ended up being Zillion top, which actually makes Ivern's top ganks a little bit more viable. And Apdo's top gank's a little bit more viable. And looks like they turn a 2v3 situation. Because Echo can't E out of the situation in the York W because it's not Echo top, we're going to be in a situation where top is gankable. And because the bot lane turned 2v3, remember we talked about it being a bot mid-centric game at the start if Echo is top. We see Ivern mid here. But because bot lane answered the situation, all Apdo has to do now is play on the top side of the map because the bot side of the map is safe in an effective 2v1 situation. So he doesn't need to go bot after bot lane played well. And we see the top lane wave building up. You see York has a huge wave. He almost never wants to gank this wave because there's too many minions. Because let's say you get the successful gank off for, I don't know, for 200 gold effectively, then that means it's going to be a situation where, like, there could be 200 gold worth of minions already. So you see he's trying to look for the gank situation now that the minion wave is thinned, but it's not a situation he wants to go for because he thinks that Ivern is here. He doesn't think that the 2v2 is that profitable because Zillion auto attacks are worse than York auto attacks because of AD, but he might go for this gank soon now that the minion wave is thinned. But he could also decide to base. Both options are perfectly fine. We see Ivern mid again, so this turns into a situation where they could go for a 2v1 top play, but you're not going to go for it because it looks like Zillion is basing. And Echo finally dies to the mid gank, the third Ivern mid gank, which means that he has a clear mid hold situation now that Echo's TP is on cooldown. And he has a clear mid hold. And so the way that the game has approached the situation, he goes for the open invade because Graves is stronger than Ivern in the 1v1s. And he knows that Ivern's going to start bomb side, so he goes for his steal opens. Bot side resolves itself in the 2v3, so he just goes for a top side clear light counter. And he doesn't want to gank mid ASAP because he's waiting for the Echo to hit level 3 for that gank situation that we talked about because Echo needs 3. But because Echo gets ganked and he's pushed under turret, he doesn't really want to gank because Syndra has a summoner spell up. Looks like they're opening. Or it looks like they're memeing it here. I don't know what that was. But he says thank you. And yeah. So bot lane resets. He doesn't want to gank mid lane again because Syndra has an extra summoner spell on the situation, so it's going to be a TP to a Ghost, which means that it's going to be a losing 2v2 because Syndra is ranged, so Syndra's going to get the auto first, as well as the fact that Syndra has an extra summoner spell, so they're probably going to lose the 2v2 because the laner is stronger. It looks like he's opting to buy pretty standard items here. And we see Ivern top. So again, the bot situation resolves itself because Saya is dead. The mid situation is a counter-gankable situation by Ivern. It's not a situation he really wants to opt into unless it's super profitable. So he just goes back to the top side of the map where his camps are going to respawn. And then he moves towards the camp that he was doing first. See Ivern over here. We see Syndra moving on the upper left side of the mid lane, looking to contest a little bit. This Ivern's using his brushes pretty interestingly to scout for area, which is a lot more common of Korean Ivern players than North American or European Ivern players. And so mid lane is already level 6, Echo's level 5, so you never want to gank mid lane here because it's a turn 2v2 unless if Ivern is here right now, it's going to be so bad. So this is a risky situation. We'll see if Ivern has the correct counter gank. Echo's only level 5, but we know the Syndra ult is down. And yep, here's Ivern. So the situation doesn't actually end up working out. Comes a flash out from York. And yep, there's a turn. So a really greedy gank coming out because we knew that Ivern was in the area looking for the counter gank on the mid situation, as well as the fact that York was missing. And he's looking to try and get some reverse kill, but it's got to be a wave clear. And then we see that the Krugs are up, and then it's going to be Wolves Gromp Blue coming up on the map. Again, the bot lane situation is already strong. Ivern wasn't there. We know that Ivern started red, but you remember that Ivern didn't smite his red because we saw when Ivern moved on the left side map, he was level 1 with no red, so we know that his red is going to come up after his blue because we took his blue, right? So Ivern's going to be going for his blue, then his red in a high percentage of situations. Zillion just ended up dying even after the York roam, so our Zillion is playing poorly. And we know that Ivern is on the left side of the jungle high percentage of the time, so our bot lane has leeway to play safe. So all we have to do is farm. Our top lane situation is resolved. Our Echo needs to hit 6, and then we're going to head towards the bot lane situation now. Alright, so Ivern's mid again. You see that he has Moby boots. It doesn't look like he passed off the blue yet onto the Syndra. And it looks like he's moving on to the right side of the map. Now it looks like we're going for an invade onto the red, but our bot lane is basing, and our Echo seems to be basing, so this is a poor use of time. We did get the bottom turret already, so we don't need to get first turret objective. But we know that Ivern is here. We're fighting. Syndra's mid, Karma's bot, but their AD carry is missing, so we're going to back out. Echo goes for the split, which means that we're going to transfer our Ashe into the mid lane for control. And then the Lulu gets to go for a roam as Ashe catches the mid wave, but it looks like Ashe is coming into the situation on the right side jungle for some reason. And Lulu picks up the York, who is proxying. And this scuttle is a very interesting scuttle, because when we look at this scuttle on the surface, when we talked about scuttle for Graves here against Ivern, we want the right side scuttle because it means that if Ivern chooses to go over the Dragon Pit with the Blasting Cone, we can see him in the Dragon Pit. So he does pick up the scuttle in decision to protect his right side jungle as well, because he has a lot of right side jungle, and if he does choose to go for the straight going into red, then he'll potentially lose his ground band and his wolves. But it looks like when he sees Ivern mid, he's just going to go for a greedier clear because he has left side vision wards already on his left side jungle to protect his left side jungle. So he's just going to do a greedy clear here. And he's not going to go for the mountain. So the map has been opened up already because of the bot lane turret being taken, which means that there's going to be less ganks to do on the map because players are more fluid, so it's more risky. So he's got to go for his full clear here. Gonna go for his raptors before his red here because he can be a little greedier, getting his raptor to respawn quicker by taking it first. We see Ivern on the left side of mid again. And Ivern's trying to play towards his win condition, which is mid-top side because his bottom side is losing so hard. Additionally, Apdo's just trying to be the most efficient farmer on the map, playing to the according situations of his laners, like his laner killing bot or top lane dying. Where the wards are placed on the map, it seems like he's being very efficient with his movement. And yep, he doesn't really want to gank top because there are too many players missing on the map. He's got base. He could potentially do a Baron solo. It looks like Echo's going to kill out the Xayah. This is going to bring pressure into the bottom side of the map. Syndra's going to be there, which means that the most likely play for Ivern is going to be to hover mid in this 2v1 situation, but also cover the bot lane turret, potentially. So this means that a top lane gank is a higher percentage play if they can get the CC onto the top lane. But Ivern's going to go in on the mid lane here. And so here's the top situation that we talked about, but he doesn't think there's enough kill potential. 3 mid, but Echo's getting damage on the bot turret. And he could go mid to hold here, so I don't really like this base. He's going to base for a little more power buy, but he might lose a bit of control in the mid center. And here comes the top roam. So this is what I was talking about, because if he had gone for some type of a play onto the York that had a high percentage success rate, but maybe he didn't think he had enough damage with Zilean. But yeah, so he's going to die here, but York goes for the right side and he's going to end up dying. So I don't know, I don't like his decision to base there. He could have floated, because after the mid lane play it was kind of obvious which play they're going for, or they're going to go for bot lane wave adjust in top lane. Flash poly coming in onto the Ivern. We're going to throw out the ult, probably going to get the kill. And so there's still 2 turrets to take on the map, top lane and the mid lane turret. So Ashe goes back to hold mid. We also have some Baron solo, or some Herald solos and some Dragon solos that we can do. But we're deciding to go for tempo. We're going to choose to go for turrets instead of going for these objectives. We're going to get the Syndra Flash here. We already used our ultimate. And we're just going to get vision on. But it looks like we're going to back out of the top turret here. So we're just going to look for some farm. Doesn't seem like there is any here. We could have figured that out by pressing tab to see the Ivern CS and counting it. And it looks like we want to get this turret. We see Ivern with our ward, so we get the left side wards. We see 1 vision ward on the left side of mid covered off. And now we've gotten both the side lane turrets. You'll see this is a lot more common in Chinese solo queue for the purposes of snowballing the map, because when you think about the, and we're gonna looks like we're gonna contest here. Remember, Ivern used flash before. Good stun coming out from Ivern, not gonna die. And looks like we're gonna take control of the left side jungle and the blue coming up. So you remember that Mountain Dragon is only really worth it in chunking turrets and not really taking turrets that much. Syndra doesn't have flash here. Nice, and we just have a clear kite here with Lulu. We get the ultimate, and Wild Growth is going to slow him up. It's really solid. And they could go for the Herald, but they're probably going to go for the mid turret instead. They get the Scuttle. And he's probably going to answer top turret, or he might leave the farm. So Echo got the tier 2 bot. So the point I was trying to make is that in situations that Moundrake is available first on the map, you oftentimes don't get it unless you have champions that are chunking turrets. Because when you look at the way the turret structure goes, like if you're going to be auto-attacking a turret, you're going to be getting the turret eventually anyway. So Moundrake is only going to aggregate the speed at which you get the turret in your poke, right? But if you're going to get it anyway, you don't really need to do the Mound Drag. It's only going to take like one wave extra, because when you look at Mound Drag doing 10% more damage, that just means, like, let's say it took 30 autos to get the turret from the position that you're at now. 10% of that is 3 autos, right? So you're only going to need 3 extra autos. So it's not really worth the time of the Mound Drag in terms of a percentage play, because the time you're investing into the Mound Drag is less than the time you're spending to get the additional turret. It only really makes sense for doing Baron, but even if it takes like 30 seconds to do Baron, you're only shaving off 3 seconds, so it's only going to take 27 seconds to get that additional turret or that additional Baron. So Moundrake isn't really common as a first take in China because of this particular play, because you can skip the Moundrake, concede the Moundrake, and if the enemy team goes for it, you're going to be going for more tempo, right? You're going to be taking this top lane turret instead, or taking the bot lane turret instead. But the new Herald is a little different, because when you look at Herald, you can, typically take half of the turret already, so it's going to be a situation that it's more profitable to take, which is why I'm a little bit surprised that I didn't go for it. So we had a really big buy here, and looks like we're going to finish off a completed item. With our PD is our pretty standard build for Graves when we're going Red Smite, so that we can duel everybody. And we're going to move to the left side map. So you see how long the Moundrake is on the map. We took the first tier 1 bottom because of our bot lane advantage, and because the Xayah was inting a little bit. And then we transition the Ashe over, take the top lane, and you see how he's just farming here? Because his top lane situation is already controlled by his team, he doesn't really need to do more. He just needs to make sure that he keeps up with farm, he controls area as is, and then he comes in like when he needs to. Like this. And so because of this situation where 2 people are dead, they can go for a shove, they can go for the mid lane shove, they can go for top lane shove, or they can go for Herald. Now here's the thing about Herald, right? Like, Herald is important. Herald is important that, to be taken as a tower taking tool. But you have to remember, Herald is on the map until 20 minutes. So you can arguably just take the Herald at 19 minutes, have it for a longer duration cooldown, because your bases in the later game are more important, because Empowered Recall is more important later on in the game than the early game, so that it can get to situations faster. And, like, you can just take the Herald at a different point in the game. So you don't really need to take it right now. You can just keep Herald up as an objective to make your enemy come into it. You can use it as an effective bait, and that's pretty much how it's used in China. Because you want to put tempo on the map instead of, like, being off the map for a minute doing Herald, that you're just going to use Herald as a bait for the first, 9 minutes until between 10 and 19 minutes, because they have to come in and check if you're doing it. You might force some misplays here. And it's just going to be a situation where you're going to take it at something like 18, 19 minutes. And so they have nothing to do on the map. You see his inside, he's already seen that the right side jungle of Ivern is clear, so he doesn't really have a steal on this side of the map. He just happens to be on the side of the map. He doesn't have camps on this side of the map. So he's just going to take the mound because there's nothing else to do, right? And then he gets memed. But at this point, the game looks like it's already over. And the key points to this game I want to look at or state is that you have to make sure what you're doing has tempo, but you're also routing towards the correct location, right? When you're routing initially, you know what Ivern can do, so you're going to go for a blue steal. You know that your bot lane situation is resolved, so you stay on the top side. You know that your Ashe is mid lane and people are missing on the map, just keep up your farm. You know when you want to take the objective, you know that you don't need to take the mountain. You know that you can get the Herald later on. You know that you want to push and get wave control, you want to cover lanes when they're dead. You want to play on your strong side, you don't want to gank really weak situations. But we see that even a player like Apdo makes those mistakes, right? He did the mid gank when Ivern was in a clear counter and when York was missing. you know? So even players like Apdo and higher level players can misplay. And it's okay to misplay so long as you learn from it, right? It's okay to play in a situation that may not be the most optimal situation if you're, you know, winning and your team can make up for you. And it's okay to just concede certain situations. So it looks like they're just going for the Nexus here, and he doesn't really see any incentive to go there because, you know, if his team's going to end the game, they're going to do it without him because it looks like they're doing fine right now, even though 2 are dead on the map. So he's just going to keep on farming, right? In case his team throws, he's just going to be really strong. And this is really interesting because a lot of Graves players would just be like, oh, you know, my team's ending, I'm going to go end with them, right? But no, he's just going to go farm. He's just going to make sure, like, the insurance policy that he plays. Like, if his team all dies, that's fine. But if his team, you know, wins, that's all good too. So he's playing to cover both situations. And then here at 19 minutes, look, 19 minutes, he's got to come pick up the Herald because the empowered recall of late is going to be more important than the empowered recall of early, as well as the fact that you can use this as pressure for the first 9 minutes of the map that we talked about, and he's got to pick up the Herald. This is my first time watching this replay, but this is just how I've found that players on the Ionia server play is more tempo-oriented. And I think it's something that NA players and EU players and even some Korean players could pick up in their map tempo situations. Because when you do this at 19 minutes, you're going to get the empowered recall for up until the 24-minute mark. And then you're going to be able to recall on the map, use Herald. And Herald in the late game is so much more important than Herald in the early game. Because you're not going to be getting just the outer turrets, you're going to be getting second-tier turrets, inhib turrets. And those are way more impactful in the game. And so he's just going to drop it down here in the last lane. And you see how his team is just memeing in the enemy base? Like, he doesn't care. He's just going to be playing his game. He's got to offer himself as the insurance policy. And this is something that's really a character trait of someone who's developed a strong solo queue-oriented style. If your team is winning, why do you need to help them in that situation if they can win, right? They should be making a decision that's profitable for themselves anyway, right? If they're going to opt into a situation, it should be a correct situation, which means that they shouldn't theoretically take something that something that they can't handle. So I'm just going to take, like, if they think they can handle a bot situation, I'll just take a different situation. I'll clear the left side jungle. I'll do the Herald. I'll take the top wave. And then you're going to be so strong from gathering all this farm as well that you're just offer yourself as an insurance policy. So I didn't watch this game before, but if there's something to learn from this game, is that players can learn something from this. You can play in a scenario where you trust your team to do what they're doing already, and then you can learn to stop doing the Mountain Drake so early. You can learn to use Herald as a bait. You can learn to take Herald at 19. You can learn to route correctly. And you can also learn that even if you make mistakes like that Butcher 3v2 situation mid lane, you can still learn something from it. And I don't know if you guys actually took something away from this replay, but if you did, feel free to let me know. And thank you guys for watching the replay with me.